Y'all pray with me. Oh Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight. O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. We all have choices, and we all want someone to blame. We try to avoid responsibility. We're motivated by desires for glory, power, or riches, something to compensate for all the ways in which we feel alone. We want to feel complete. We all began our journeys by spending 9 cozy months swimming in a pool of warmth and comfort. No worries, no concerns, no thoughts, just pure being. Nourished by our mother's bodies, we grew and developed. We slept, we stretched and kicked, we sucked our thumbs. Mindlessly and obliviously of what awaited us, we lived in our own personal Eden. And one day our earth shook, and with a loud cry and a breath, we found ourselves thrust out of the garden of our creation and thrust into the cold world. And now here we all are at various points in our journey that at its most unconscious and deepest heart seeks to return to a place in which we felt complete and whole. Outside of the garden, we feel alone and frightened, and we spend however long our lives may be seeking ways in which to restore that sense of completeness and wholeness that we once understood. The story of our own lives from conception to birth to death of the body is mirrored in the story of Adam and Eve. In all creation stories that human beings have ever imagined, our Genesis story has roots that go much deeper than our Old Testament. And similar stories can be found in cultures all over the planet. somewhere deep inside of you and me is a longing to feel complete and whole. It is the root of our lives and what motivates us. And our lives become about all the choices we make to achieve that wholeness and that completeness. Psychologically speaking, we spend the first 2 to 3 years of our life trying to grasp the concept that we have been thrust out of the garden. Psychologists call this separation and individuation. When the temper tantrums of our toddler years do not succeed in returning us to the womb, we set about a lifetime of trying to find substitutes to make us feel whole and safe. At first, we experiment with power and control. We attempt to manipulate our parents and our siblings and our teachers and all those in our environment into meeting our needs by trying all sorts of ways of controlling them. Power struggles ensue. Potty training is the first great struggle for power and control. We move on to power and control issues over eating and dressing and brushing our teeth and sharing our toys. And soon the scene of power and control shifts to the classroom and the playground. And then we may expand our repertoire of how to achieve that sense of wholeness and safety we so desire with attempts at glory and fame. If the world around us will just pay us more attention, we just might be whole and safe. So we learn all sorts of ways to get noticed. Some good and some not so good. We might get our recognition by getting good grades in school or by being the best at playing ball. Or maybe we get attention by the clothes we wear. Then again, maybe we get attention by kicking and hitting or by interrupting with paper airplanes or by teasing the kid next to us. Or we go for both power and attention by bullying or by becoming the captain of a sports team. Our world is full of approved and unapproved means of gaining power and attention. And fairly early on, most of us discover that there might be wholeness and safety in things. More toys, more games, more clothes. Mine, mine, mine. We hoard things and lay up treasures from a fairly early age. And then as those teen years arrive and our hormones get going, we discover the possibilities of finding wholeness and safety in the arms of another. And so we seek love and relationships in all the right or maybe all the wrong places. And as we grow older, the world presents us with more and more ways to fill the void and to calm our fears. Drugs, alcohol, tobacco, chocolate, burgers and fries, candy of all kinds. And we become increasingly creative about the attempts we make to fill ourselves. We continue to be tempted by power and control and by glory and fame and by riches of all kinds. And our capitalistic society uses all of our most basic longings and anxieties to sell us everything, from cars and SUVs to cosmetics and Botox and hair replacement to electronics and kitchen gadgets and the latest in video games and movies. We are sold medical treatment and pills, diet regimens, exercise equipment, and even vacations using the same principles of meeting our needs for connection and safety. Though the means at our disposal in the year 2023 are somewhat different than the means available to the people of Israel 2,000 years ago, or even to those of the ancient fathers of the Bible, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They too had the same desires and needs in their hearts. They too were pushed from the womb, from the garden, and they too had longings for wholeness, connectedness, and safety. So did Jesus. Jesus was a human being just like me and just like you. He too came into this world and found himself separate and alone and with a deep longing for wholeness and safety. And just like us, Jesus had choices about how he met those needs. Ah, that's the critical word here, choices. Yes, we all have choices about how we get our needs met. And those choices will determine the lessons we learn and who we become. When we are small children, we have little consciousness about the choices we make. But as our brain matures, we develop the capacity for self-awareness and judgment, the capacity to make considered choices about who we are and who we will become. Jesus had choices too. Throughout his life, Jesus had choices every day, just like we do. He was not some automaton controlled by God in some faraway heaven. Jesus had to choose how to live his life every day, and many times every day. In our gospel reading for today, we find Jesus at a crucial junction in his life, at a time of trial and of serious decision-making. He longs for wholeness and safety like the rest of us, and he is tempted to complete himself through power and glory and riches, just like us. Shortly after being baptized, Jesus has taken some time to go off by himself to consider what kind of life he is going to live. He has to decide what that voice from heaven meant about being the beloved. Jesus experiences a call to follow God, but he needs time to think about it. So he goes off on what today we might call a retreat. He fasts and he prays and he thinks. He spends time alone with his thoughts and his own heart. What to do? All the desires of his human flesh urge him to be like all the other leaders. He could go after power over all the kingdom. He could strive for victory in politics and with military might. He could do things to get special attention. He could fling himself from high places and have angels catch him. Such glory and attention is appealing. He could seek gold and riches or use his skills to impress people with a kind of magic that makes bread out of thin air. Or he could just comfort himself with food and drink and, who knows, maybe the love of a good woman someday. So many temptations, choices, so many possible ways it seems to fill the emptiness. The power of the emptiness pushes Jesus and us in so many directions. Sometimes we call this power evil. We do not like to acknowledge this aspect of ourselves, and we do not like to take responsibility for all that hurts us and for all the bad choices we make. So we've created a being that we call Satan. If evil and Satan can lie outside of ourselves, we can claim to be victim and take no responsibility for who we are and for the choices we make. Jesus chose differently than we do most of the time. He chose to be who he really was. Jesus understood that power and glory and riches would not make him whole or keep him safe or ultimately save him. He felt the same desires that we feel, the same kinds of temptations, but he chose to take responsibility for his life and for the way in which he would become whole. Jesus chose God. Jesus chose to do it differently from everyone else. His choices were all about love and connectedness, about healing and hope. He chose to see the good in others, not the bad. He chose to develop the strengths of others and not to take advantage of their weaknesses. He chose to walk with the humble and the meek and to spread love. He understood that finding wholeness was about giving, not about taking, about letting go, not about getting or hoarding. Jesus turned the world upside down because he knew that the answer to everything that we long for was not in all the usual places that we seek it, but in the opposite. Our wholeness and the source of our being and of all that is not to be found in grasping at things to fill the emptiness, but in allowing ourselves to move into the emptiness, into the depths of our being, and there finding God. Nothing of this world will fill the empty and fearful place within us. The answer will not be found in shopping or TV or the internet or in sex or drugs or alcohol or sports or books or intellectual exercises, more degrees, cars, trucks, food, the latest diet and fashion. It will not even be found by just showing up at church on Sunday mornings either. The answer is in the quiet place deep in our hearts, the quiet place in which, if we allow it, we will recognize God. And from that place, as we give away love and care and give away all that we are, we will find our wholeness and our salvation in the presence of God. Our wholeness is also found in our caring and our connectedness and loving involvement with each other. Our wholeness is in giving our lives away to others. Then we will be complete. This is the story of Jesus' life and death. It is not easy to get beyond the choices that we have grown accustomed to making. It is not easy to take a hard look at who we are, whether we are 5, 15, 25, 55, or 75 or more. These years are nothing in the heart of God. We are creatures of habit, and we have been afraid for so long that we have trouble imagining what it would be like to feel whole and safe again. But we can begin today to make new choices and to break our old habits. So we begin the season of Lent. It's a good time to try some changes in our routines so that we might consider making changes in our choices. Small changes in our everyday life can help to bring to our awareness other ways of being. For many, the decision to sacrifice something or give it up or to fast on certain days is a way of helping to remind ourselves to make different choices and to remind ourselves of the true source of our wholeness and our safety. We also need to become aware that we do make hundreds of choices every day. You know, it begins with a decision to get out of bed in the morning and moves on from there. In this season of Lent, I pray that you will choose to look deep into your heart and that you will examine the choices that you make so that you make choices for love and wholeness that is only found with a deeper relationship with God, your Creator. Amen. Will you sing with me? Number 819, Be Still My Soul.